Hi everyone, welcome to the show. Today I am have the pleasure of sitting down with Mike, who's a good friend of mine. So welcome to the show, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Finally.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making, right? So appreciate
Yeah,
you taking the time, man. Well,
welcome
um,
and thanks for getting me up early.
yeah, Saturday morning, bright and early.
Sorry.
Well, okay, Mike. Well, tell everybody who you are. Like where do you come from? Where do you live?
Yeah, so my name is Mike Kobler, Gadagbui, and I, live in Houston, Texas. I like to think Houston is one of the best cities in the United States. I'm originally from Ghana, and that's in West Africa. And I've been living in the United States for like almost 10 years now. I originally came to the United States to study on a scholarship, and have been living, finished college, started businesses, and have been living here ever since. So, yeah, I am a resident now. So. Exciting times. I believe in the American dream, and pursuing it every day.
Love it. Congrats, man. That's you got the actual residence now and you're absolutely killing it. Did you come from Ghana and straight to Houston or did you were you somewhere else
No,
before?
no. So I Boston started college there, and then moved to Pennsylvania, and then from there moved to New York City. Then from there, New York ended up being expensive. Start a business, and have you know if you're starting up, you're having an office and people, and I mean it's just a lot. So it didn't make sense. So I sent everything virtual and just started traveling around and from there, have some friend in Dallas, who was a PhD student who I went to college at. And he was like, come to Dallas if you don't like it, if you don't like Texas, then, you can, go back to New York. He said, it's affordable here, good place to start a business, taxes are better. So I did that and, I never looked back. But the way I moved to Houston was I came for a conference. It was accidental. I ended up staying for like 3 days a week and I just stayed. And that was the perfect time I went to real estate, met a broker and we became good friends and, that was it. So I got hooked and I never left.
Man,
Yep,
that
yep,
conference changed your life.
yep, 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 yep.
Amazing, amazing. So, okay, so getting into that space, right? You came from business background, it sounds like, and you were traveling a few places, right? So,
Yeah.
how did real estate come about, right? Like, is that something you always wanted to do, or how did that kind of play out?
So honestly, I always knew like I will real estate be part of my life because obviously that's what my family does in Ghana. So my dad actually he did it on a smaller scale. He was community developer, so he takes pride in helping build local like road, help people build their houses, um, churches, schools. So he takes pride in helping the community. So he doesn't like, hey, let me make a bunch of money. He was okay, like what to do. So it's more of like helping. He's community focused oriented. And so I watched him did that. I thought it's a lot of labor. And then my brother, my older brother, who didn't go to high school, ended up becoming a developer and doing government contracts. So he was taking defense contracts in Ghana and building housing for the military, like bungalows, like hospitals, and like taking on big projects. With the government. So I saw him do that, and then eventually started doing his own personal, like multifamily builds up. So I even managed some of those multifamily properties for him. Um, and so I watched all those things progress, and I've seen like the bunch of money that is being made, but also it was capital intensive because he has the finance system is not different from the way it is here. He has to use his own money to do it. So that kind of deterred me a little bit because it's a little bit risky when it's changing of government. Then it's a little bit imbalanced. So that's how real estate has been part of my life. But when I came here, I came here as an entrepreneurship student. I did 2 years of civil engineering in Ghana before coming here. And when I came, I thought tech would be the way to go. I wanted to make, money in tech and be one of the dot-com boys. So started attending college. Didn't go well. You're supposed to be a software for, tenants and landlords, which didn't go well. I was helping a friend with that. It was his idea for the main part, and I thought, he thought I could bring value, and but that didn't go well. So then I turned into real estate after that.
Wow.
I'll
Okay.
let you kind of take it from there. Yeah, that's kind of a long story. Yeah.
Quite the journey. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, it seems like you kind of grew up with real estate around you, right? Like,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
being in a conversation, seeing your dad, seeing your brother, that's
Yep.
huge. Were you one of those, young kids who was like out in the field with your dad, maybe like, seeing
Yep.
projects and on the job site?
Yep. 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 And then actually the way you get paid as a kid was going to mix up concrete, with the laborers, because it's a humbling experience. They want you to, really have a feel of how it is like to interact with everyday people who are, doing their best to, put everything together. So I ended up spending more time with my brother, who also has like a construction crew for his project. So the same thing, he was like, well, the only way you get paid if you come to site and help. So again, that was a humbling experience watching that. And it's also fun because most of these workers are like just cool people who just want to work so hard. They believe in hard work and really just want to make things happen. And they take pride in their craftsmanship. So I think along the way, now looking back, that has really helped me have a better perspective and appreciation for the art of actually, putting things together, not only from on paper perspective, as in these are the numbers, but like how it all comes together and the craftsmanship behind like putting a structure that is now worth something and operates for something, and like the whole piece is involved. So
Yeah, definitely. You got to see the behind the scenes, right? Of like
yep,
how it's actually done. So
yep,
that's amazing. So, coming from that and then, graduating, you kind of saw, different lights, different, businesses, different industries, right? But then
yep.
you kind of connected with this one broker, right? And ironically, his name's also Mike, right? So tell me about that. How did that play out?
Okay, so before the real estate thing, in between like the startup thing, there was a digital marketing company as well. So that was also helpful in kind of generating my own leads, over the period of time. Um, so that was there, and then when I decided to go into real estate, I moved into real estate full time because so I had like virtual assistants in my digital marketing business, and I moved them to the lead generation into real estate. So um, my first week, I got my first deal. That's when I even learned about wholesaling, because initially I'm like, well, in Ghana, you have to have your own money to be able to start like stuff, which is capital intensive, right? So it's almost like the draw system here, but then that you have to start, purchase the land, like do the whole thing, architecture, planning. But here, like you could start with wholesaling, it made sense, even though that's not a long-term play. So first week and a half, I got my, my first deal, a mobile home in Tennessee that I haven't even seen. Flipped that in about a month, make like 22 grand. And then I got hooked, I got hooked. But transitioning to that in Houston, I was looking at a project in the Montrose, which is like a very prominent area, like it's supposedly an A or A plus location, depending on which side of Montrose. And the dirt there are like really really high up, like expensive there. So I saw this deal that is a potential development project. So it's either like it could be a multifamily or fiveplex, or you could like pull the whole thing down, put a bunch of new condos, townhomes on it, or you could like develop into like a bigger like unit, and then use it for whatever the strategies. So it appealed to me. It was a probate deal, and I've been in contact with the seller for some, the person in charge for some time, and the deal looked attractive. But I just needed an expert opinion because that's something that I value a lot. Expert opinion. It doesn't matter how much you think you know, you have to get expert opinion. So I reached out to this broker that I'm looking at this deal that I'm looking to, develop. Can you help me look at it? If you represent me, you get paid in the process. So he was like, your accent, where are you from? So I tell him from Ghana. They're like, oh, I have clients, from Africa. So that broker is Tom. Through Tom, I met Mike, because Mike worked with Tom, at the time. So this older gentleman, really awesome person, he's 62-ish years old now. And, we met and he was like, hey, you remind me of me when I moved from Detroit to Houston, like 30 years, something ago. And you have that fire in you. Don't worry, I'm going to show you around. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you understand Houston real estate, and I'm going to give you all the resources that you need. And at that point in time, it was just like a life-changing moment because we became like really close. And he did exactly that, like he gave me access to his office. He has like 50 agents now. And, in return, I feel like, okay, what should I also do to help, which was, helping with the market and bringing some leads to them that I couldn't convert, for my purposes. And then they could also listen. So there was that beneficial relationship. But long story short, that deal didn't end up working because it was a historic, property. So historic, if you know about historic properties, you can't do so much to them. You have to go to the committee, and it's like a whole lot of things, almost like somebody telling you what to do to something that you bought. So we moved past that one, and we did other deals, and which we're gonna talk about, and it's been an upward trajectory from there ever since. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. Let me, so you touched
Yeah.
you mentioned a few things there, right? Like I want to mention there. Okay, so you started off, if you go back, like you said, wholesaling, right? That was a good way for you to kind of get into the game.
Of course. Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, wholesaling is, just assigning your rights to the contract to somebody
Yep.
else, an end buyer, right? Whether that's a fix and flipper or buy and hold, whoever, it's really just assigning it and you're collecting a small fee there.
Yep.
So that's a great way to get started, right? And then you're dealing with complex transactions like probates, which you don't know, maybe you might not know, or
Yeah.
it's important to consult with somebody who's done it, right?
Definitely.
And in that process, you found a mentor. Like that's amazing. And
Yep.
I think what you mentioned there was key is that you provided value to them, right?
Yep.
That like you
Yep.
were saying, what do they need? And what
Yep.
they needed was leads, right? And that's what you provided to them, not like just taking, but providing value, right?
Yep.
And
You
I
always
think
have to do that.
100%, and that's so important. So that's awesome. And historic districts are challenging, like you said, right? So I think we saw a post recently in the group about, I mentioned historic districts, and I'm like, check if the property is there, because if it is, you might have to go through extra hoops, like you said, right? Of getting permission or having to use a certain kind of paint or window type, or
Yep.
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Sometimes you regret. So actually, my other business partner has a project going on like that. It took about a year just to get it all together. He's making probably close to 300K on it. But it is just like took so much just because, especially during COVID, they only meet in Houston. They meet like once a month during COVID. So the meeting was postponed 3 times. So meaning 3 months. Yeah, you can only imagine. But yeah, if you can touch them, but if you can't, they are very complicated. Try to, it's not going to go as fast as you think. And if you take in cost of capital can be high, depending on where you get it from. It can take you longer, and you might not like the outcome. So, but yeah, historic properties, I'm not a big fan.
So make sure
Yeah.
you know what you're getting yourself into is the
Yep.
point there. So then to tell us, like, how did the first deal look like, right? In that area? Was that the first one? Like the wholesale one was the one in Tennessee. How did the first one in Houston look?
So the first one in Houston, I did so many other deals in Houston. I can't even remember the first one in Houston. Um, but I remember not long after that, started doing flips, right? Started doing flips because I'm like, well, if I can, raise the money or use a little bit of my money, and then, things can be much more calmer. So I don't have to, you know, because from the experience from the first deal is I had to sell it within a specific period of time, right? So you don't have so much control over the deal. And um, the goal was to like really start, developing and having something like for the long term, right? Um, that is my, because that's what I watch my people do. They didn't like, wholesale for the most part. Well, maybe there are times where like, maybe they'll buy a land and they resell it to somebody else. So I remember the first deal in Houston was a flip, and actually it was a sub two, right around 127, and paid the seller like 15K. Took over the mortgage, which that was even before I found sub two, right? And then to took over the mortgage, we had a good understanding. We paid them a little bit more than what other people were offering, just because we came in creative, and then put in like I think 11 grand, and then I'm selling that then for around close to 200,000. So made a decent 60K each after everything was like said and done, and paying like every little thing here and there. So that was how that deal went in Houston.
Wow, that's amazing. It's not a bad day when you can make $60,000.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And for anyone that doesn't know, right, that's listening, subject to, right, that's a I would say somewhat a little bit of an advanced strategy, but it's definitely something that if you don't know about, look into it. Mike and I are actually part of the same mentorship called Sub Two, and we do a lot of these creative transactions. So peace, exactly. So if you ever have questions on Sub Two, right, you can always reach out to Mike. If you have questions on that, seller finance, or if you have questions on fix and flips, right? Like Mike knows those three things. He's done them, right? So always
Yep.
find somebody who's done what you want to do. So that's
Actually,
awesome, Mike.
signed a listing agreement on two of our flips this week. That one, that one on the market. So
Love it.
that's very exciting. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, I'm telling you guys, Mike is doing big things.
Try. I mean, there are some people, some people in the group that are doing big things there. So, but it's always like it's just good to be part of a community that have people doing stuff, and I mean I get inspired just watching you and a bunch of other people doing stuff. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's community, right? Surrounding yourself around people who are
Yeah,
like-minded, who are inspire you, who are going to lift you up. That's key,
exactly.
right? And
Yep.
so that's what we're all trying to do. So let's do it together, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so Mike, when you first started this journey, right? Like
Yeah.
coming and looking at what you've kind of accomplished now. What's something that like blocked you in the beginning? What was like a limiting belief that you might have had?
You know, I think I could have gone bigger. Like, there were, looking back now, there were a bunch of multi-families that were thrown at me from the beginning. And I was like, single family, just because that's all I knew. And I thought it was too complicated. And now I look over my shoot. If I had like taken advantage of all those opportunities, I mean, I'd be cash flowing so well now that, even like the appreciation alone, I mean, so I could have like thought bigger without being, trying to play small, uh, and or maybe bring other people to the table where we could all be like, hey, I don't know much about it, but it seemed like a great opportunity. How can we all, benefit from it? And that's why obviously, I'm open to, doing stuff with you and, a few other people, that we connect. So it's not too late, obviously. So that's one thing that held me back. But other than that, I think for me, I never had a job. The last internship that I had, for college, just because I had to do it, I hated it so much. So for me, it's like I had to like do it, or there's nothing else there. And so for me, it wasn't even like I know a lot of people have this setback as to, okay, should I start it? Shouldn't I? So for me, it's like, well, there's nothing to do. So that's the only thing to do. That's how you're gonna, make your money. So I've never really had like a setback as far as that goes, or jumping and taking the leap of faith and like learning on it, or asking questions, reaching out to the experts, say, hey, what do you think, about this? Hey, even though I grew up in a construction home, real estate in Ghana is not real estate in the United States, like zoning in Houston is not zoning in, like Ghana. Like there's a lot of things that are different. And so I think I to, ask expert questions and, pay experts what they are worth, and create a win-win scenario. But I should have definitely thought bigger and shouldn't have thought maybe bigger deals are outside of my, limit. It's like, how can I make it happen instead? So that's some amends that I'm making as at this point.
I love it. Yeah, and that's definitely difficult, right? It's seeing something so large, right? It's like this
Yeah.
huge apartment building. You're like, how am I gonna
Yeah.
buy
Yeah.
this thing? Like this is
Yeah.
this is $2 million. I don't have $2 million,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But yeah.
And the funny part is sometimes, so I made a conversion. Like I remember there was time a deal that I saw right around the 35 million apartment complex. So I made a conversion in like Ghana, like currency, and Iran is so many billions. I'm like, oh,
We see all the zeros.
Yeah. But now, no, I'm not. I'm not so much concerned about it, because I think with time, especially after running some deals back and forth and whatnot, those are totally doable. And it's all about the mindset, right? Because it's going to be the same amount of work too. When you think about it, whether it's a flip or something, the smaller ones even take a bunch of time and energy from you. Whether it's a flip or like a 50 units or 100 units, I think relatively, when you get bigger, I mean, I'm sure you can attest to that. And especially when you're going to hold it long term, you only have to do it once. So even if it took you like 6 months or a year to get that one deal, I think it's totally worth it. So that's my understanding now, and that's why I'm making those things a priority.
100%. Yeah, I had a mentor one time who would tell me, he's like, what is your return on time? Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never thought about that, right? Because everybody thinks about like return on investment, but like, like what is your time worth, right? Like, how are you getting a return on that time? And if you can spend the same amount of time doing something bigger, why not do that, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's huge. So
yeah, that's huge. That's deep. Yep.
Right. Return on time. Yeah.
Return on time. Yeah.
Yeah. You only learn about these things when you start talking to other people, right? And networking.
Yeah.
So it's huge. So Mike, for the rest of 2022, what are you looking to do? What are your goals for this year?
Well, so for me, one of the biggest thing is obviously gratitude, and then also making the best use of time, as you just mentioned, building relationships. I think that's key. And I plan to 80-20 as much as possible. So specifically in the businesses that working on right now, there's the active part and then there's the passive part. So the active part is like the fix and flips, because it helps you like gain personal equity to be able to put into like the larger deals. And looking at acquiring some, multifamilies, either like the small multifamilies or the big one, a combination of both. The smaller ones looking to use some of those for STRs in the prime locations, and the bigger ones, then that would be like the usual long-term, rental. So the goal is to be able to run in the fix and flip stuff, to run somewhere between 1 to 2 million, revenue by the end of the year, and then, the holds control about 10 million, as far as that goes. And then alongside build great relationships, build, make great partnerships. And currently, so last week I I put an LOI on a construction company. Right now we have a good crew, which is great, but as you begin to do more and, you want to have like, you want to be able to expand your resources. So another thing that, looking at is, acquiring construction companies, because I love that aspect of it. I know people, it's kind of boring and, like it's not sexy, but I just find it fun to be in the midst of like really hardworking people, and just building things, like, making things better, nicer, it so fascinates me how you can take something that maybe an ugly 50-unit apartment that is looking, trashy, quote unquote, and somebody want to get rid of it, and now you bought that stuff and then really like maximize value, make it better, maybe add square footage, maybe break it apart or turn like a two into turn a one into a 2-bedroom, like do all these things that essentially an appraiser will come look at and be like, whoa, now this thing is worth so and so X than what it was before. And that's all because you put a bunch of craftsmen together who just work on this thing, paint it, put the roof on and like add some value to it at the end of the day. So I enjoy that process. I think it's an art form. I know a lot of people get trophy for playing basketball and stuff, but I think for me, what I'm realizing is I'm getting the satisfaction from like actually putting something out there for a building, like that's my art,
That's your championship.
Yeah. When you think about it, like, I think that's my excitement. So it's more like a sports now for me. So looking to do more of those, and I think the financial aspects, will come along the way, but I think I'm excited about that process, like as the days goes on. So I see myself doing that and acquiring, businesses strategically that are in the ecosystem of like real estate. Yep.
Amazing. I think something you touched there was the process, right? Like you're in love with the process. You're not in love with the result, right? Like the result is great, the money is great, but the process, right? And the process is where you want to fall in love with, because once you fall in love with that, then everything else it becomes fun, right? It becomes not a job, not like a thing that you dread, but something you want to do. You get up and improve, you get up and get better and keep learning.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the team, and also, building an amazing team. I'm lucky to come across some people that are really, really good to me, and I'm enjoying their company, and looking to, build that out. So at the end of the day, everything is running smoothly without me being there for the most part. So maybe I could just be the face of what we're doing and bring resources to the table and allowing everybody to flourish. So I see, I see an office, owned by us, lease from one LLC to one LLC, and having, a bunch of good, awesome people, dedicated people working either on the passive investment side of things and on the long-term side of things. And then, running a media thing, on the side. I see pay style and I'm like, this so makes sense. So I buy into that vision. My partner and I got a new construction project going on. So, possibly, looking at doing some new construction multifamily stuff, at a cost, because then because we're going to have, we have our in-house people doing the project and whatnot. And, Houston's an amazing city, is growing. So those are the possibilities that I see. And I'm just excited about it. And over time, I keep increasing the goals because, as you get closer, like, oh, wow, this is totally doable. So that's kind of my vision towards 2022, raising private money as much as possible and making good connections along the way. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
definitely. Yeah. So if somebody wants to come and like, provide value or help out, like what are you kind of looking for in your business? It sounds like, private money, maybe some partners. Well, is there anything else that you're kind of looking for right now in the rest of 2022?
Yeah, so normally it starts with just, friendship and vibing, right? Because obviously, if you guys in business, you have to, there's just something that flows, conversation is easier, communication is easier. So that's for us, it could just be true, meet up and have a conversation. And, if we see that we want to be able to do something together, then we start with the smallest thing, right? And see how that goes. So it could be a 3-month project or 6-month project, just get to learn each other. Or it could just be a transactional thing, right? And then depending on how that goes, then, then there's potential to do more stuff together. But I like to do business with the people that I enjoy spending time with, like you, I text you most of the time, we text back and forth. I think it's exciting, like you want to find joy in the work, but open to meeting people, having conversation and see where that goes, and because everybody's needs is different and alignment is key, but yeah, open to any form of collaboration as long as, they're happy at the end, we're happy at the end, it's the fair trade, everybody's protected. I'm open to all that stuff.
Love it. It's all about relationships, guys.
Yeah,
all about relationships.
This is key. Yeah.
Yes.
This is key. Yep.
So if anybody wants to connect with you, Mike, right? Like where can they come and reach out? What do you prefer? What's the best way?
Yeah. So, either via, Facebook. I know you're not, Facebook Michael Gadagbui, or phone. I think that's easier. Instagram, I'm starting to get back my Instagram. I'm on private right now, so I need to do that. Actually, my media team is back, so I'll start producing content sometime next week. So like full on, documenting the whole journey to like the goals that want to achieve, to the end of the year and beyond. So got a social media content team now. They are planning everything behind the scene on Slack, and I'm excited about that. So my YouTube, Michael, Kobla Gadagbui, and I'll be putting a lot of content out there. And actually, our podcast, that I'm co-hosting, also started like last week. So I know we'll be happy to have you on there next weekend. And so those are ways to reach out and connect and see how we can be of value to each other.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be sure to link them in the notes and everything. Like all your profiles, your podcast, everything. So for anybody that wants to connect with Mike, feel free to reach out. Mike's great. He always loves to chat. So
yeah, but if you guys don't know this guy over here, I mean, you should watch out for him. But I see you, dude. You passionate, like you love like just building great relationship. Like you're easy to talk with. I mean, like you're smart dude too. Like. And you just provide value. I mean, I see you, like you are always learning constantly. Like sometimes like, how does he do all this? Like
I think the same thing about you.
How does he do all this? But no, dude, I think, I mean, I think a year from now, bro, like you like have done so many amazing things that that will surprise a lot of people. But I'm happy for you. I'm glad we met, and looking forward to get some projects completed with you.
Thank you, brother. It really means a lot. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I see you. You're going like this, and I'm like, okay, I need to catch up. So I always see that. So you inspire me, bro. Like,
maybe it's a good thing we inspire each other.
Exactly. Yeah, bro. All right. Well, hey, thank you again for coming on, man. It was a pleasure.
Yep.
I know so many people are gonna get value from this, so appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Yep.